Hi, I am Lisa Ruff. I am the director of the Global Ministries Committee, and I would like to introduce the members of the committee that are here. So we've got Connie Marty, Judy Pink,
Stand up.
Alan Hagan, and I did just see Don McClellan float through. He's somewhere. And we're missing Mark Corn.
Because they're still in Norway.
They're still in really?
Wow, they've been gone.
Okay, fine. Anyway, so I am here to talk, or first of all, are there any announcements? Okay, well, we're a quiet group today.
We'll warm up.
Okay, if you have questions as I go along, let me know, of course. But Common Hope, or Familias de Esperanza in Spanish, is one of our supported ministries. This just was working. What happened? There we go, okay. And we are actually one of the faith community partners for Common Hope. It's a program that they have that's intentional with faith communities and business communities to garner support and to spread the word basically about the organization. And I just thought I would start with a little video, which is a thank you video to us. Oops, picture in picture, full screen. There we go. Play.
Down at the bottom. The arrow at the bottom on the left.
Oh yes, way down there. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Curtis. I'm the director of education and Hope. I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of our supporters and partners. Without your support, thousands of students struggle to accomplish the dreams of finishing high school. So thank you for being on
The next part gets real
Well, now
loud.
it's going to be in Spanish, so I want it lower. Well, it's a huge experience for me as a student to see that for several years since I was a child, opening and closing my eyes again to realize where I am. Without a doubt, a great achievement for me because since I was a child, I dreamed of this. After several years of effort, I realized the little seed I planted is growing like a tree and is bearing its first fruits. I know that today ends a chapter in my life, but I know that another chapter will begin a whole new story, with new experiences and above all, new connections.
I'm Mel,
Yeah, he is. Now you.
and we are your representatives at Common Hope St. Paul office.
Saludos, and gracias for your partnership in 2023.
Thank you for your impact in generating hope and opportunity in Guatemala.
We so look forward to making a difference in 2024 and inspiring others to do just the same.
From both of us, Feliz Año Nuevo!
So that was their thank you to our congregation at the end of 2023 for our support. And what we have done as a congregation, let me get back to my slide presentation. It doesn't quite fit on here, does it? There we go. Hold on. So as a congregation, what we have done is we support monetarily with our global ministry budget, which is 4% of our total giving. I mean, not all to Common Hope, that 4%, but part of it. We have had 2 vision teams go to Guatemala, I believe in 2000, either 16 or 18.
I think 16 is what I went.
So raise your hand if you were on one of those vision teams. Yeah. I have some pictures coming up of that too. We host a traveling tienda, which is a traveling store for fair trade, to purchase fair trade gifts during the Advent season. And also a Common Hope giving tree along with ELCA Good Gifts where people can buy gifts for people in honor of something. We have members who are here who are sponsoring 5 different children and then 1 pathway member as well. And we have our new Global Kids Connection sponsoring 4 kids. So that's what I'll be talking about today as well. So first I'll start a little bit with the history and then the current programs and then this new initiative, the Global Kids Connection. So history, Common Hope started back in 1986 with Bill and, I just said Bill, I meant Dave and Betty Hipsch. And they were from the, sort of the St. Cloud area outside of that. And they decided that they wanted to go to Guatemala and help the dire situation of the people in poverty. There was a huge civil war in Guatemala. Many of you might be aware of that, from 1960 to 1996. Horrible, horrible, many, many deaths targeting the indigenous communities. So they were there towards the end of that, working in one of the indigenous communities around Lake Atitlan. And they actually, their lives, well, and what they started is they first asked people, what do you need? They asked the families, what do you need the most? And they said, education for our children. And so that's how this is basically a big program on education, and then it added other things as well. But their lives were threatened, and they had to leave Guatemala in 1986. They came back a few years later, and their son, John, was with them, and he actually became the second executive director after his father. And they worked in villages and communities outside of Antigua, Guatemala, which is about 30 miles or so from the capital city of Guatemala. And they added, whoops. Okay, there we go. In 1991, they added 3 other programs besides education: healthcare, housing, and social work services. So those 4 programs are the pillars of Common Hope. And then I thought you would enjoy how Mark and I, so Mark is in the Boundary Waters again, otherwise he would be here with me, my husband Mark. But he basically is spending all of September in the Boundary Waters, apparently. So in 1994, we decided we wanted to volunteer somewhere, and so we went to a colleague. I taught Spanish for many years, so a colleague of mine knew of this project, and we just sort of went down there not knowing what to expect. And we ended up working in the cement floor project. I'm really good with cement. Really good. I became the person who would spread and smooth the cement. I don't know the words in English, which is sort of funny. So I would use a plancha, and but basically we would go out in a truck every day and help families build cement floors, because often their kids were sleeping on the dirt and getting diseases from the dirt. So that was the whole idea of why cement floors are so important. You mix it all by hand. So Guatemalan houses are arranged around a yard, basically. And so you walk inside, and then there's yard. And so you mix the cement in a yard. You put just a big, they called it a volcano, a volcan of rock, cement, and sand. And then you mixed it with hose, asadones, and added water, and then spread it like that. I would work with work teams, so I love this guy. I don't remember his name. He did not want to get dirty. I think he was like a high school or a college. But I mean, look at me. I'm just like. So it was sometimes a challenge to work with work teams in a good way. At that time, there wasn't a common site. So the clinic and the social work officers were in town in one of the houses, and so this is actually the doctor, and it was really crowded. So I think this kid had just gotten a shot, and we're all like, yay, good job. And then the social workers would pile into a van every day and go out to wherever. And then the volunteers lived both in the clinic project house, we called it, and the garden house. And there was a very small staff and volunteer, core volunteers at that time, but we had a lot of together time. We spent all day living and working together, and got to do some fun things like a bridal shower. So I did the dress the bride in toilet paper game. And then here we're throwing toilet paper bouquets. They thought it was hilarious. And then we actually got to go to that woman's wedding as well, which was really special. And apparently, this is way before I taught yoga, I would do morning stretch class with everybody.
Little did you know.
I know, little did I know. So, and then the construction of the Family Development Center began in Antigua. So it's just outside of Antigua, sort of on the outskirts. Common Hope was able to purchase this large acreage of land. And when we were there, they had purchased it and cleared it, and then built a wall around it, which is really important for security. And then we spent the whole summer waiting for the construction permit to come through. It was stuck up in the government, and it came through the day that we left. But construction started. We came back a couple of years later with Jacinia, so there I am with Jacinia on my back. She was a year old then, and there she was playing with some of the kids. But that's how it looked at the beginning, and those of you who stayed down there know it looks quite a bit different now. Oh, whoa. Whoa, sorry about that. My clicker did not work well there. Okay. No. Okay, I'm going to go this way. Rapid clicker. Okay, technical difficulties. There we go. Try again, Lisa. Okay, so the original name. Mark, by the way, does not know I included this picture.
Never would.
He had really long hair at one point in time. I know, yeah. A little bit of a Jesus thing going on. And we're Birkenstocks the whole time. But anyways, the project originally was called the Godchild Project, always based in student sponsorship. And at that time, there was also a project in Antigua called the God's Child Project, and it was very confusing. It's always been called Familias de Esperanza, Families of Hope in Spanish, and so they eventually changed their name to Common Hope, which makes more sense. And by the way, we painted that sign, which is why he's holding it. That was our first job. So Common Hope works in over 30 communities, and as I said, they have programs in education, healthcare, housing, and family development, and this is where they work. So if you're not familiar with the geography, here's Mexico, here's Guatemala, and the rest of Central America goes down that way. Guatemala City is right there, and then Antigua, where I would say the huge majority of where they work is about 30 miles away. Traffic is horrible. So when I landed in August, it took us 2.5 hours to get from the airport to Antigua. It's since the pandemic, everybody used to use public transportation, and during the pandemic, that stopped. And so a ton of people bought motorcycles and cars, and the traffic is just, it's really, really, really bad. And then New Hope is just outside of Guatemala City. That's the only site that has its own school. Otherwise, all the affiliated kids and families go to the public schools in their towns. San Miguel Milpas Altas, San Rafael, Santa Maria, Marta, which I believe, Annie, you've been to.
Yeah.
And then El Zapote, which is very remote, that Mark got to go to this last time. He, by the way, is the board, chair of the board right now. So we were down there for a board meeting. There we go. Common Hope promotes education, generating hope and opportunity in Guatemala. And it works alongside families to fulfill their commitment and educational dreams while building better lives for themselves.
Amen. So, they have high schools in Guatemala.
Yep.
So, you provide alternative high schools?
No, they go to their own public schools,
Okay.
the public elementary, middle schools, and high schools, or junior highs and high schools. The only place that they have their own school is in New Hope, which is just outside of Guatemala City. And that came about because of Hurricane Mitch. If you remember that hurricane, it basically washed a lot of Guatemala City off the mountains. And so New Hope was built after that, and they decided they'd try to make a self-sustaining community with their own gardens, their own housing, their own schools.
So you provide housing and then this family center?
Yes, so a lot of the people come to the family center, and I'll talk more about that as we go on too. So multifaceted programs, and I've already mentioned what they are, but here's a little bit more about them, which might answer your question. So education, the national averages in Guatemala, 32% of people complete junior high, 18 graduate from high school. And it's really, really low. The reason for that is poverty. I think it's over 65% of the people live in poverty, and very, very low poverty, extreme poverty. And they need the kids to work, basically. They also can't afford to send them to school. So even though public school is quote unquote free, you have to have school uniforms, shoes, supplies, and school fees. And that's a lot if you have a family of 5 and you're earning $2 a day. And so with Common Hope, kids become affiliated, and then their education is paid for as long as they stay in school. And then the whole family can access all of these programs. So the Common Hope students graduate at a rate of 3 to 4 times the national average, helping to break this cycle of poverty. The other programs that Common Hope has to supplement the public schools are tutoring, access to technology and libraries, individualized support, and English language learning. And so people come to, they either come to the site, the Family Development Center for that, or they can access those programs in some of the outlying towns they have, like in San Rafael. I know that they have a tutoring program there because it's far away from Antigua. Healthcare. So of course, as they were going on, they realized that if kids were sick or family members were sick, they were not going to be able to learn in school. And so now they have a clinic right on site, and then they also have partnerships with clinics in other sites. So they provide comprehensive services, screenings, pharmacies, they reduce preventable illnesses, which are things like diarrhea. So people were dying of having diarrhea, which is completely preventable. They prioritize preventative care, offering dental and prenatal services, and provide support for chronic conditions. Walt, did you work in a clinic when you were there?
I didn't work, I visited it to,
Okay.
And saw what they were doing.
Yeah. And I do remember when we first were there and brought Jacinia down, everybody thought she was a boy because she didn't have her ears pierced. And so the doctor at the clinic offered to pierce her ears. I declined. Very cultural thing. Housing. So here is some of our work teams. Look, there's Joseph and Mary peeking through the window. Adam, nephew, Mark, myself. And then here's Mary again. Where's Mary? Mary. And me and Rachel.
She's on the concrete team, I think.
Yes, and then Kaya and a friend of the congregation, Yvette. So this was their all-female concrete floor team. Isn't that pretty? Didn't we do a good job? I know.
You put your initials in?
No, it's really hard to keep the chickens and dogs off of the fresh concrete. So there's many footprints in there, but not ours. So there are dire housing conditions. Often houses are built out of lamina, which is like corrugated metal, or corn stalks or bamboo, with dirt floors, and obviously that's not very safe if a natural disaster, which there are many more of those come through. Safe and stable homes, and then improvements like clean water and electricity. And it's sort of interesting, when we did the concrete floor project, people usually rent or squat on their land, and so then they would be forced to move, and that concrete floor would have to stay. So we started making blocks of concrete at the site, and then bringing it out so they could bring their floor with them. And then same thing with the houses. So the houses are made out of, I don't remember, fibrillite, I think it's called, some kind of cement board. It's difficult, but you can take it apart and take it with you. So, very smart. Family development. Common Hope social workers are amazing. They know their families so well, they work with their families, and they provide holistic support for the family, offering parenting programs, legal aid, emergency relief, and they collaborate to address challenges and work to build a future free from poverty and instability. And then their strategic plan, Getting a high school diploma is super important, but they also have recently, Guatemala's changed, and getting a job after high school has become increasingly difficult. And so they have sort of pivoted, and now they are preparing their high school students, helping through the supplemental programs to be more competitive in the job market, including computer skills, English language learning, which is becoming more important in Guatemala. So it's interesting how their whole strategic plan objectives all support that. And a lot of this is done through student sponsorship. So through sponsorship, as I mentioned before, a child and their family have access to Common Hope's multifaceted programs, helping them achieve the goal of graduation. The cost of sponsorship, so for full sponsorship, $99 a month or one annual payment. So $1,188 is the cost of providing services to one student for a year. It's not that much.
And their families.
And their families, and their families. Lead sponsor, which most people usually are, is $70 a month. And they do have a guiding sponsor where you share sponsorship with somebody, which is $40 a month. The child does need to stay in school for them and the family to continue receiving support. Big incentive to stay in school. Right now they're helping 2,000 families, which is about 7,300 students. They do help kids that are not sponsored as well. So if they go out into a community and a family's like, oh, we're really struggling, we need help, they definitely help that family. So right now I think there's 700 kids that are waiting to be sponsored. And the sponsorship it's very special. Yeah, I mean, there's child sponsorship, student sponsorship has advantages and disadvantages, definitely, and there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down there. But through Common Hope, they intentionally have people form relationships with the kids and their families, and the kids who are sponsored really look forward to getting letters from their sponsors just for encouragement. You know, keep staying in school, keep working hard, and they're so proud of their grades. They're so proud of being able to go to school. And the kids that I talked to, they would just light up when they talked about going to school. And I just thought, you know, I left teaching a little bit early because that is not the case here in the US so much anymore. So it was fun to see how excited they were about education. This graduate right here is on what's called the Pathway of Dreams. So each of these blocks with writing on them is a graduate's name. And when somebody first becomes affiliated, the student and their family, or affiliated or sponsored, the student and their family are encouraged to walk this Pathway of Dreams together and discuss their goals, which is really cool. So I'll talk about that later. And then Mark and I have been able to sponsor 3 different kiddos. So this first one is Brenda, right here. This is Brenda and her family. And this is one of the first times we met them. Kaya was with us. Brenda graduated. I didn't get to attend her graduation. I actually went the year after, but this is what the Common Hope graduation looks like. But then the next time I was there, I saw her waiting for the bus to go to her job. It's like, oh, this is so awesome.
Yeah.
And then the 2 that we're sponsoring right now, this is Marjorie Valentina. She goes by Valentina. And this is when we first met her. And she actually lives in New Hope. I brought a book to Mama, it's in a Yama. Your mom is a llama. Anyone know that one? She loved it, so I read that to her. And then we got to visit, this is right after we were free of the pandemic. And in Guatemala, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But anyways, they were still wearing masks. Same thing here so this is Sandra, first time we met her, and then that's that second time right after the pandemic. They put up Bienvenidos Padrinos sign, which is welcome sponsors. And then this is the last time. She was so proud that day. She had spent the whole day preparing for her final exams, so she is going to graduate in November. And her final exam, she is in culinary, the food service track, basically. So in Guatemala, when you go to high school, you choose what your career is going to be. So after 9th grade, you know, if you're going to be a teacher, you would go to one kind of high school. If you want to be in hospitality, you go to another one. So she wants to be a chef. She wants to own her own restaurant one day. And their final exam was to prepare from, you know, going to the market at 4 a.m. and making the recipes and everything and prepare this big fancy dinner for all the parents. And that was going to happen the next day. So she was very proud, and yeah, and her family is, and I love how Jesus, her little brother, is just. That's Jesus. What happened? But we are very happy. We are going to be able to go to her graduation in November. So yeah, I'll tell you more about that. And then we have very exciting Mount Olive Church Global Kid Connection. So it's our new initiative with the financial support of an anonymous donor from Mount Olive. Each Godly Play Circle and both confirmation groups have been able to sponsor 4 kids in Guatemala, helping them reach their goal of graduating from high school. Yeah, so very exciting. The Global Ministry Committee have been trying to find a way for a long time to involve the kids of Mount Olive more. And this opportunity came with the financial support of a donor. And it's really cool. There we go. Okay, so here are the kids. So Alison is 13, studying in 7th grade, and she is connecting with Confirmation Group 2, who are Elena, Lucy, and Arthur. What I did is I took pictures of the kids before I left, and then I actually brought a framed picture to the kids and their families when I visited them. So I was the representative. I went in August, visited my own 2 sponsored kids. Mark was at the board meetings almost all the time, which is why he's not in many of these pictures. And then I was a representative visiting the 4 kids and their families. So I brought a picture of the kids. And each of the kids also, or each of the groups of kids here suggested a book that they might like. And so I found a Spanish language book. So for Alison, we found Esperanza Rising. Has anyone read that one? It's an amazing book. And then we had a visit with them. I talked about Mount Olive. I talked about, you know, Elena and Arthur and Lucy. Lucy had written a letter that I shared with Alison. Typically, letters go through the offices for translation, and just to make sure there's nothing, you know, asking for money inappropriately or anything like that. So I showed the social workers before we went out the letters that the kids had written, which I had translated. And then this is the first communication that we got from Alison, which I haven't even showed the confirmation groups yet. I'm doing that this coming 2 weeks, I believe. And so with this one, obviously there's a lot on there, but she says her favorite classes are entrepreneurship, English, Cachiquel, which is one of the indigenous languages of the country, math, art, and dance. She's a very studious girl. She was really fun to get to know. And then for each of the families, I also brought the game Spoons.
Yes.
So I had this little loon, like a card pack with loons on it, so I explained what loons were. And then plastic spoons, and oh my gosh, it was hard at first to teach the game. And I had gone over, you know, how am I going to do this, what's the Spanish, the whole thing. Luckily, one of the social workers was with me on all the visits, so she loved the game. And so luckily she could help me teach it after she understood it. Yeah. And oh my gosh, I wish I would have had pictures of us playing it, but it wasn't appropriate to take pictures then. It was just very fun. So Renee is 11 years old, connecting with Confirmation Group 1. He's studying in 4th grade, so I'm guessing because his age is a little bit older, he probably was held back for a year. That's very common in Guatemala. Advancing to the next grade is not an automatic. You have to pass tests, and it's very common for people to be held back quite a few years. So Eleanor, James, and Jasmine are in the Confirmation Group 1. Jasmine wrote Renee a letter, so I did the same thing with that letter. And he lives in San Miguel Milpas Altas, which is, it means tall corn, and it's way up, that's their backyard, it's really pretty. The woman to the left of me is their mom. She looks young, she's, I think, 31. And then Renee, his little sister, who has quite a few health problems. And then that's actually Renee and his sister's nephew standing behind them. So, yeah, so it's something like that. But you can see he's holding the picture of the 3 kids that are sponsoring him. And he said, in his family, we're fun, we like to share a lot. I have dogs, and guinea pigs. And I think he used 2 different words. Oh, wait, no, the Spanish is there. No, he did say that, okay. Because they had big dogs and then they had all these little puppies running around. Guinea pigs, there were chickens, there were lots of animals there. And Leticia is 9 years old, studying in 3rd grade, and she is connecting with Godly Play Circle 2, which I got COVID before I could visit this group before I left. And so Judy quick got a picture of the Pipcorn kids, who are all in it. And there are many kids missing from that picture, unfortunately. So John, Leonard, Harold, Leo, Oliver, Ava, Lena, Jenny, Are. That might be a typo, is it Jaime? Jose's kid?
Oh.
Okay. Kimberly and Daniela.
Jair.
Is that hard?
Kim,
Question?
Jair, Kimberly, and Daniel are his kids.
Oh, okay.
Danielle.
Okay, sorry. Yes?
Okay, I really appreciate the kind of relationships that you've developed and the work that you're doing. But Guatemala has a lot of natural resources, okay? And why is it so impoverished? Do you have any understanding why Guatemala is that impoverished?
A lot because of the remnants of the Civil War and the oppression that happened during the Civil War, which stemmed from colonialism, which stemmed from U.S. involvement, colonialism, U.S. involvement, Civil War. I mean, yeah, the history of why Guatemala is so impoverished is the same as many Central American countries.
Yes, well, if I can speak to that, I mean, that's what's bothering me about this whole issue.
Yeah.
Is the fact that a third of the immigrants that are at our border right now are Guatemalan. And are both Democrat and Republicans are trying to be tough on immigration. But those are people just like you and me. And if you found out, they want the best for their families.
Oh, it's, what always strikes me is it's such a tough choice to leave your home and your country. I mean,
Yes.
people don't want to do it. They
don't
have no
want-
other choice.
No,
Yeah.
they're just, and I can't forget the fact that 70 years ago this year, I was on standby in the Army in Central America to invade Guatemala. Okay, so, and at that time, I was told the communists were going to take over.
Yeah.
And that was a lie. And I learned from Daniel Ellsberg, and I won't tell you about Daniel Ellsberg, and I had a conversation, but he informed me that the president, our Benz, had been popularly elected. He wasn't a communist, but he was going to buy out all the foreign corporations and make them so that they would help the Guatemalan economy rather than.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other history that would go on and on.
Yeah, but I mean, so, fortunately, I didn't have to go kill Guatemalans.
I'm glad. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
and me too. I'd be a psychiatric basket case if I had. So,
Is it
We
getting better?
overthrew that government. We
Uh-huh.
overthrew, and so everything has been chaotic since then. And maybe it went back before that, but clearly.
Yeah, it actually recently, the recent election, a non-corrupt president was voted in and was allowed to become president, unlike in Venezuela. And it's changing very, very slowly, incrementally. But it's for the better, but we can talk a little bit more about that. We'll see if people have other questions as well.
Okay.
Let's see, so this is Leticia and her family. She had hung up this letter for the sponsors. Welcome sponsors to my home. And I'm very happy to have you here in the house of my family. I thank you for coming here and to my home. Thank you for your support. It's going to help me. Greetings to all of you and a big hug. That's so cute. And she says, my family and I participate in the Catholic Church in my community, and that makes us happy. And then the last visit, Hosea is 6, studying in kindergarten, and he connects with Godly Place Circle 1, who are Oren, Atticus, George, Margaret, Howie, Ginny, and then Lydia wasn't there when I took those pictures. Hosea lives in New Hope, which is the city that is next to Guatemala City, or the town that's next to Guatemala City. Very difficult to get there. It takes an entire day, so we weren't able to see him in person, but we did a video visit and found out, I did not know this, he has a twin. So two twins, which was sort of interesting with the video visit, because if you have 2 twin boys and the sound isn't great, it was a little challenging. But his twin had already had a sponsor, and so he was just thrilled to be able to get a sponsor and to have somebody writing him letters and encouraging him. And this is what New Hope School looks like. So this is when I was there a while ago, not this visit. And Mark did actually attend with that one. And we haven't gotten first communication from him yet. And then, let's see, I have just one more video to end with, and then we can open it up to questions. So this one is more about graduation, which of course is the ultimate goal of the kids that are sponsored.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Rudy Emanuel Lampajo, tengo 18 años y pues
I'm 8 years old right now.
Finalizar nuestro
Closing ceremony is just finished, and I graduated with a focus in industrial and automotive mechanics.
Hola, mi nombre es Daniela Elizabeth.
I'm Daniela Elizabeth,
Actualmente tengo 18 años.
18.
Y el día de hoy me estoy graduando.
I'm graduating with a focus in business administration.
Yo le doy gracias a Dios por
I give thanks to God for allowing us one more day of life to be able to celebrate this occasion, enjoying with our teachers, relatives, parents, and my fellow students. Despite the difficulties, today I'm graduating, and the truth is I want to congratulate my other colleagues who also made the effort that got us here, and also thank you very much to Common Hope. In life, they supported us a lot. They gave us quite a few tools to be graduating today. It's been very special for me, this celebration. And I thank God for allowing me to be here today.
Buenas tardes, chicos. Mi nombre
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jose Luis Gomez. I'm a teacher in mathematics. I've had the pleasure of sharing a lot of time with you. For me, it's a joy that each of you has achieved a great goal, and that you already achieved your dream. I've known many of you since you were little in primary school. And believe me, I feel so proud, so happy at this moment that each of you, because you've achieved your dream, one more goal has been achieved, one more stage of your life. But I also invite you not to stay here, but continue at the university. I think all of you are very talented, lots of energy, and you are the hope of Guatemala. One day we'll have the opportunity to know you as doctors, architects, engineers. And so for Common Hope, I think the foundation feels very proud of you today. This is a goal more than New Hope School of Common Hope. It's one of hope, because we're all very satisfied with this achievement, and that you too have fulfilled your dreams. Be good children, be the best examples for your families, so that in the future, we can form better families and better successes. I wish you the best. May God bless you and keep going, and be good citizens for Guatemala. We need a lot from you.
Hola, mucho gusto. Soy facilitadora.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm an education facilitator for the project. We're celebrating this goal as an entire foundation, and it's very exciting. We see so many kids achieving their dreams and meeting their goals. As an educational facilitator, I'm sure that every effort is made as a foundation for education is worth it to achieve these dreams. Hi, I'm Elsa Garcia. I started to work with families, Common Hope, more than 17 years ago. And I want to encourage the young people to move forward, fulfill your dreams. Everything you propose, if you're persevering and strive for it, you'll achieve it. I congratulate you and motivate you to keep you going forward. Blessings. Hello, graduates of 2023. I'm Renato, Director of Education. I want to give you a big hug and congratulations on graduating. Achieving one more dream for you and each of your families. I know several of you who have graduated, and it's really a pride to be a part of your lives. I wish you all the success in the future. And please don't forget us, we are here for you.
That's a huge class.
Yeah, well, and that's from all the different towns around.
Oh.
So,
But still.
So they do their own graduation at their own high school, but then all the Common Hope kids come together?
well, it's only a recent phenomenon that the high schools have had their own graduation. They usually have not had any kind of ceremony, so this has been super special. But recently, some of the high schools have started having their own ceremony. So these are for all the kids from a bunch of different
For all the
schools
Common Hope
that would come.
kids, yeah.
Yep, that are Common Home kids. So, questions, comments? Gee.
I just want to say that the most impressive thing to me when I was down there, well, there were a lot of impressive things, but the support that the social workers give was truly amazing, because it's not like, you know, you give money to send the kid to school and that's it, and you hope their family pulls along with them. But the social workers meet them at least once a month, I think it is. And, you know, we got to go with them, they come into the home and they say, how's it going, what do you need, to the whole family. And that sense of supporting not just the student, but the whole family with what they need. And families talked about a lot of different things, like I need to figure out what to do to encourage the older brother who's not following where I want him to go, to we're having food insecurity problems, all sorts of different things that aren't directly related to the education, but obviously support the education. And I just, to me, that's one of the absolutely brilliant things about the Common Hope program, about the whole support. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
So, can you kind of break down the difference between like the sort of the financial resources provided for sponsorship and how that helps individual kids and their families versus versus the financial needs of the organization itself? The difference between the
That's a
types of-
great question that I would probably have to look up the answer. There are many. So, do you have
Well, I can
something?
give a shot at it. I mean,
Okay, oh, good, thank you, because I'm not a
Lisa
numbers
said
person.
that other kids that aren't sponsored get cared for too.
Right.
So the way they explained it to us, Mary and I, we're sponsoring two, in fact, one in San Miguel de los Altos, so I
Oh.
was kind of thinking this one she'd be in the picture, but of course it was just the one family. But the basic thing is, the sponsorship just goes to the general budget, right? And so it isn't that, they're helping whatever kids they can help. But when you add sponsors, it's a way for them to fund their whole program. So it isn't like our kids get the $1,200 or whatever a year. It funds the whole budget of Common Hope. It's just, it's sort of like, this is how they build their budget, is increase sponsorships, but they aren't turning kids away. So Hoshea, his twin was sponsored, he wasn't, he was probably getting,
Yeah.
the family's getting services, but by having us sponsor him, well, there's money going into the main pot. And that's the way they explained it to us, that, you know,
Thank you.
so you aren't leaving kids out. But the more sponsors you have, the more regular money they've got supporting. The other really beautiful thing for me was, it's all indigenous run now. I mean, down there, it isn't Americans, executive directors, it's all Guatemalans that are, I mean, it's, Americans started it, and there's still American presence here, obviously, and Mark's on the board. But they own their own stuff, and it's such a beautiful thing to see, because then it becomes a real partnership instead of, you know, Great White Hope kind of garbage, but it's like,
Exactly,
it's,
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, that was how they explained it.
Yeah, no, thank you, because
That's helpful.
that stopped me, so. And the other thing about, you know, when I was there and it was so small, and then it's grown so much to be able to help so many more, the heart of the project has remained the same, and that's what always strikes me. And I love that their you know, logo is the little heart with the hands.
Yeah.
Yep, that'll-
I have loved hearing about Common Hope and all the work that it's doing with students. I'm wondering, is there any work that they do on a more systemic level, or do they partner with people who are on a systemic level so that, you know, less people are in need of these services, and so that the society takes care of people better than it is right now?
That is another great question. I know that they're developing partnerships, and as part of their strategic plan, I believe that that's the direction they'll be going.
Yeah.
Especially now, the new executive director, who is Guatemalan, has many connections. She actually just worked for the Department of Education. And that's the job that she came from before. And so I think there will be more systemic change, and they'll be able to partner more in that.
Very
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and one of the big things they were doing for a while, I mean, they had a special project of working with the schools to strengthen the schools, so that the schools that the kids went to were working, remember that? Were working
yep.
with Common Hope to strengthen the education in the schools themselves. Yeah, so that partnership thing
Yeah,
is a big
yep,
thing for
definitely.
them.
Justin?
And I'd say, I think their basic mission is a systemic change. The more kids they can get graduating and being able to earn a living, these kids, I mean, just think about all the graduates they've sent into Guatemalan society who now have a chance to make a difference themselves and really, you know, spreading throughout the culture, just having successes among these kids. I feel like, you know, their goal was, we're gonna help families. But that's a systemic goal in and of itself.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that strategically they're also thinking bigger, but their big project is always, we want these kids to get education, we want to make sure they can stay healthy, we want to support the families, we want to support the schools, and I think that, I mean, I think it does it. I'm in awe of the number of kids that have gone out into the economy and are succeeding because they were able to finish school. It seems so simple.
Yeah, we actually spent time with a great example of that. So those of you who were at the gala, one of the speakers was a Common Hope student when he was young, graduated, went to university, now he has his own chocolate business, and he has paid it forward basically with, so his, I think it was his junior high sweetheart, and he said, okay, you have to complete high school before we get married.
Oh.
And then she went on to university, and all of his kids have gone through university, and they're all in this business now. And he's paying it forward and helping and sponsoring kids at Common Hope now. So it's just, it's all this,
So
you know, it's breaking the cycle of poverty.
That's right.
The one math teacher I struck, he essentially said that.
Yeah.
He said, you know, you're going out to become, and named off these different jobs, and you will change Guatemala. I think I've heard
Right,
his
yeah,
exact words, but that one math teacher essentially said that same thing.
Yeah.
It was very striking.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for coming today.
Thanks.
Yeah.